All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, and Frankie Corrado. What a beautiful Friday here in Toronto. Feels like hockey weather out there. Sunny, but cooling down a little bit. I love it.
Walking along the streets with the cool air in the morning, it really does feel like hockey, Hazy, and I am fired up. I thought I was ready for preseason hockey, but I want that to be done. I don't
then
know
watch
why.
the game in Prague. I guess the real stuff is already happening, right? Jersey's up 4-1. They won a game, and 2 points for Sheldon Keefe. What do you know?
Yep.
Regular
the guy
season
told
guy,
us
man.
yesterday. The guy told us yesterday, you guys are silly. The season doesn't start next Wednesday. Go Devils in Prague. They're getting it done.
Yeah. Shout out.
Who said that to you guys?
We were talking about the season opener, and he's like, you guys have forgotten the season starts in Prague, Buffalo, Jersey.
Right. Okay.
That was an innocent mistake. Our apologies.
It was.
Now we recognize what's going on.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. To start the season, like you want to have a good year, to fly to Prague and get dummied 4-1, I get it. It's only one game. It just sucks.
Especially Buffalo, right?
Dude,
if that's
I know.
That's Vegas or Edmonton or Dallas or Tampa, you're like, whatever. We're a veteran team. We're
Buff's
over
got to
here.
win that game 4-1.
Yeah. Buffalo
You know what I
cannot
mean?
start that way. You can't have it. Turnovers and bad goals and
But did you have the Sabres doing anything like special this
nothing.
year?
No, I don't think they make the playoffs, but
No.
it's early. I get
that's
it.
par for the course.
We're
for what
reacting
they are
off
this year.
one game. There's 81 games left, clearly, but still, the point is, if you're Lindy Ruff and company, much like Sheldon Keefe with Jersey, you want to get off to a good start.
Absolutely.
And it was the real deal Holyfield today, and it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
But as for the preseason stuff, I guess it'll feel more real tomorrow night because the Leafs have waived a lot of players and sent a lot of players down. And I thought last night it was a great sports night between football, baseball, the Leaf game on. You can't beat it. You can't beat last night.
I'll tell you what.
that.
You guys, I actually said to myself, I felt like an old man. I was like, I'm proud of those two. I'm proud of those two. They finally put it together, and they put their tremendous information plus gut instinct into that football pick. And you guys, you did it. Like,
well, we didn't play the game, but yes, we picked a winner, and I appreciate that. And even though I was watching it all, I caught the majority of the game. Again, I was watching a lot of the Leafs. I had one of the all-time great flip-over moments, literally as Pete Alonso was walking up to the plate. Wow. Like, I was so proud of myself. I flip over, and he hits that home run in the ninth, and John Gibbons was there, and Gibby will join us at 5:40 today. We're really looking forward to that. But even after watching it and then turning it off and going to sleep, I'm not kidding. I woke up in a sweat thinking that was all a dream and the Bucs had covered and we lost again and we're going to get grilled and never hear the end of it. That's how ugly it had been for Al's brother and myself in the past. And a win is a win, a cover is a cover, and what a ball game on Thursday night. Even Al Michaels was jacked about that last night.
He was. How were you feeling at halftime? Because I was texting Noodles a little bit last night, and I just checked my phone. 9:37, I sent him a text. I go, this Al's brother cannot pick a winner if his life depended on it. And then they win the game, and it's like all is good, and you guys are trying to swing the pendulum your way. It's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't feeling great the way that both teams were kind of marching down the field, and the Bucs, I believe, had a lead at the half. But listen, Atlanta, it was a minor miracle, but also full credit to Kirk Cousins and that coaching staff and every player on the field for executing the final drive in regulation to get the first down, to clock it with a second left, and then the kicker comes in who had missed one earlier, and it was a deep kick, and he hits it. To keep them alive, to get that level of execution, like that is pro sports in a nutshell. We're talking about with NHL right now and in training camps, and this is the kind of stuff you prepare for. Like, get your ball down the field, put it in a position where, your kicker can at least keep you alive and push it to overtime. And 36-30, what a ball game. It felt like a big college game with the amount of points and complete lack of defense. And, we goof on primetime Kirk Cousins that was just phenomenal last night.
It was phenomenal, but when you really kind of look at the big scheme of things, are any of those two teams a serious team?
I think they're both playoff teams. I think they can both be playoff teams. I think.
Okay, you mean if you're defining serious by they're going to get to the playoffs, but other than that, you're not taking them that
I don't think they're
serious,
winning a Super Bowl. If that's what you're asking, do I think they're in the Super Bowl ring of contending teams? No, I don't think either team is in there. But I came away actually very impressed with the way Baker Mayfield's running that offense. Like he is just he's making the right decision almost all the time, or it feels that way. And Kirk Cousins, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. They're a winning club right now. I think both teams can get to double digits, and both can be playoff teams.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that your perception of Kirk Cousins has changed a little bit this year? Like I don't know. Like people used to goof on him. Can't get a win in prime time. The guy just put up 500 yards throwing in prime time, and he's won his last couple starts in prime time. And he's coming off an Achilles kind of gross injury last year. I don't know. I feel like the guy's like he's not getting any younger, but he might be getting better.
Yeah, I'll give him that credit. I think he's still got to prove what he can do in the playoffs, right, and down the stretch. There's a Leaf element to Kirk Cousins where he's been a pretty good regular season quarterback for quite some time. Like even in Minnesota, they went to the playoffs a fair amount. Remember, and he checked down on 4th and 8 against the Giants at home. You can't do that come playoff time. So, yes, he deserves a lot of credit. New team. They drafted a quarterback with a top 10 pick, right? Michael Penix Jr. They took, I think, 8th overall, and that shocked him, and he didn't see that coming. And, they've had a tough schedule. He's coming off the injury. Full credit. I'm not taking anything away from Kirk Cousins, but he's still got to prove that he can get to that next level. And in order for him to do that, it's going to have to happen in the playoffs. But all you can do is take advantage of what's in front of you, and that's exactly what he's done so far this year.
Don't you think that was like the Jordan Love pick where it's like, this guy's just good and we got to take him?
Yes.
And he's just he might sit for a couple of years. I don't have any, I think that's smart from a team to say.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's like this guy, everyone says, I'll just take the best. Maybe he was just flat out the best player available at that slot in the draft, and we're taking him. And we just signed a guy to $86 million, whatever. Kirk Cousins signed a massive contract. But he's going to have to sit there for 2 years. And maybe we make Kirk Cousins go away in a couple of years, but that's what's going to happen.
That's smart
exactly
business.
It's like the TNF deal in Toronto almost, where it's like 6 years, but you're almost looking at it. Just go 2 years at a time, and we'll figure the rest out. Because who wants to be scrambling after? What if your team does better with Kirk Cousins? Now you're not drafting in a position where you can grab a high-end quarterback like that. Might as well just take him. You'll figure the rest out later. It'll work itself out one way or another.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with, having a young quarterback sit. I mean, Rodgers did it, Love did it, other quarterbacks have done it. And it's the one position that's separate from every other one on the roster. If you get a guy that you believe can play for you at some point and win for you, you have to do it. You have to take that guy. Doesn't matter who's on the roster, where you are in terms of a build, a rebuild, ready to be a championship caliber team. If you see a quarterback that's special or you think can be, I think it's mandatory you take him. And I don't think you have to explain it. It's simply the position of need. And look at last night, Kirk Cousins, that's why they won that ball game. Baker Mayfield was really good. And we got a full slate of games this weekend, including a game overseas. And you guys will be on the clock. Vikings-Jets, that could be a really good game in London. So a 4-pack of picks. Luke Wilson coming up. Al's brother will come up, and I'm sure Al's brother will be in a great mood. Very positive attitude. He will not rub anything in anyone's face.
He sends one more video to the group chat.
That was aggressive and quick. The first drive, the Falcons punch in a touchdown, and Al's brother sends us a recorded video. I thought he was pushing his luck. I have to be honest. I'm a little bit superstitious when it comes to gambling. I had no idea what he was thinking he was doing last night.
Yeah.
But, he was jacked up. So he's coming up in a couple of hours. Brad Treliving will join us in about 15 minutes. Like I mentioned, John Gibbons later this afternoon. But last night, I think it was, the Nick Robertson night again. All this guy does is score in the preseason. And I think he sent a great message to the team. Like, by all accounts, he wanted out. I think that was pretty public. He wanted a trade. I'm pretty sure he could have been picked up by any team in the league if they were willing to meet a price. No team decided to meet that price. I don't blame them. Again, he's not an established NHLer. there are a lot of players in the league that can score goals, and he's not the biggest guy. He's not overly physical. He hasn't proven that he can do this for 82 games. But for him to show up and have the camp that he's had, score basically every game, I think that's a great message. I think that's a great attitude, because it could have been easy for him to be mopey and think he's getting screwed. I wanted out. You didn't trade me. Yeah, and Craig Berube's not going to give me a chance. He hasn't shown that attitude at all. It's been the complete opposite. I really credit him for that.
Everybody says come to camp, Hazy, and do your thing to win a spot. You can't ask any more from the guy. And I don't want to put some kind of negative spin on it, but now the challenge for him is he's clearly done enough to earn a spot, whether it be on the third line. He's a third-line player on this team. That's just what it is. Now the challenge for him is at his size and the ice time he's going to get to be productive as an NHL player. I saw last night he killed some penalties. He made some good plays defensively. He is not going to get prime time. If he's going to see secondary power play unit, we know what that looks like in Toronto. That's 12 seconds. That's 12 seconds of power play time. Because those big boys stay out, and deservedly so, for all of it, because they have the puck the whole time and they make good plays. So his challenge now is, what does he become? He's had his moment in the training camp where, I don't know, maybe if somebody's not pleased by Craig Berube, he can just say, I'm going to put Robertson up there to wake you up for a couple shifts. So that's just where I see it. He's got a challenging road ahead where it's he's got to prove to do something with less minutes and opportunity.
But don't they have to give him an opportunity to play higher than that if he plays well and he scores?
Okay, but you tell me where that is in the lineup.
Well,
is he going to...
I'm not saying he's going to get it right now. What I'm saying is you can't label the guy a third liner forever, right? Why? Because Max Pacioretty's in his way? Or
I don't think Max Pacioretty's in his way, or nor should he be.
Exactly.
Nor should Bobby McMahon at this point. All we've talked about this preseason is how games are meaningless and it's pointless for these guys to be out there. For Nick Robertson, it kind of meant something. This guy needed to show to himself that he could do it. He needed to show to the Leafs. And maybe on a bigger scale, he needed to show to all the other teams that didn't want to pony up and trade for him that this guy could actually play. And we've almost just kind of anointed some of these guys. We've anointed Nyes as the first-line winger. We've anointed Bobby McMahon as the guy who's going to be there on the left side. Nick Robertson came in and he said, I'm going to outplay everyone. And good for him for doing that. And he probably deserves more of a chance, whether that's, second line, third line, more time on the power play for that second unit, although there's not going to be much there. The point is, the guy has done everything he can, and he's outplayed some guys that maybe were ahead of him on the depth chart.
Absolutely. And again, that won't change what's going to happen opening night. Nyes is going to play with Matthews and Marner. That is likely going to happen. It sounds like Domi is probably going to play with Tavares and Nylander. So you are talking about someone who's likely going to start on the third line. But if he keeps going, you got to give players an opportunity to prove that maybe they should be higher up. And I don't know how long that takes. I don't know if that's 10 games in, 20 games in, 30 games in. But if he keeps scoring and if he plays the way he played last night in the preseason, albeit, again, preseason, not the greatest competition all the time. But if you compete, you back check, you defend, you score, why can't he play further up the lineup?
That was the Red Wings A squad last night, by the way.
That was exactly. They had everyone out there last night.
That's who the Red Wings are throwing out there, and that was the Marlies that kind of put the boots to him, and Nick Robertson led the charge.
Like I said, guys, you guys are acting like I'm dumping on Nick Robertson.
No, that's
I'm not saying
I'm responding. I agree with your assessment that that's where he's starting. What I'm saying is, there are some guys where it's this is who you are. You're a fourth line. Steven Lorentz is not playing in the top six ever.
No, he's not. No,
Ever. Ryan Reeves is never, ever. Just like Mitch Marner and Matthews are never playing in the bottom six. What I'm saying is he projects to be top six if he can get that opportunity, but he's got to play well enough in the bottom six to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's where he is. And that's all I'm saying. And, yes, it is going to be a challenge for him to do it. But if he does it, I think it's on Berube and the Leafs to say, fine, we'll give you more of an opportunity, more ice.
Right. And the one thing that he has to do is there's going to be a situation where they're going to play a big boy team, whether it be the Florida Panthers or the Boston Bruins or the LA Kings, and he has to play big. or else the Berube's going to look down and say, I got to put Bobby McMahon out there because he's a bigger body and he doesn't get muscled off the puck and he's dependable and he's physical, and I just want a bigger body out there. So that is going to be one test coming up for him that he has to pass, or the coach will hate his guts forever.
Do you think that, like, in the past here, we've kind of seen, haven't we seen some of these guys get moved out of the lineup for, like, the Connor Dewars, the Ryan Reeves, pick the Zach Aston Reeses, the Sam Laffertys of the world, and it's like, okay, in theory, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're not going to get pushed off the puck. Did they have a more of an impact on the game than Nick Robertson would have had in that situation? You know what I mean? Like, we kind of get stuck in on these thoughts and preconceived notions as far as what a guy can be. I think Nick Robertson can play, man. Like, the guy can actually play. He's not this big liability.
I'm not going to argue about this, but I just want to tell you, if he's going to play, he can't get pushed out of a game, and he's got to make a difference. Because if someone's just going to go out there and be a guy, which there are so many in the league, they're just a guy. They get the puck in, they get the puck out. Like, you got to do something. You got to be effective. And if it's just two guys out there doing nothing, the bigger body element is going to win over it every time. So score a goal and make plays.
Fair.
Score a goal and make plays against the big boy team and just say, I can do it. I can do it against Detroit, and I could also do it going into Florida on a Saturday night with a hostile environment and things are getting pissy out there, and I'm going to go out and make a play and score a goal there too. It's got to be a consistent thing. And, hey, if he wants to get a shot in the top 6 with some of those guys, let him do it. See how he does. Maybe he's a consistent goal scorer in the league. Maybe he's a 30-goal scorer.
Dude, there's no reason why he's not scoring 25 goals this year. With that shot and like what he's done in the preseason should get him a little more runway. Like, I think what he's done now, he's probably bought himself a little more time, a little more runway to say, you're going to start here, but now we'll give you a little more time before we pull the pin and maybe put someone else if things aren't going your way. So with that being said, I could see him getting 25 to 30 goals.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure the Leafs have to make this call, and Brad Treliving will join us, in the next 10 minutes, and we'll ask him where does he stand within the organization today compared to where he was 3 weeks ago when camp opened up, because he's in competition with other players who play a different style, and if it's not going to be here, obviously if they put him on waivers, which I don't believe they're going to, they're going to lose him, but is there a chance they flip him now? Has he built up his resume enough, and I'm not sure you can in the preseason, for another team to call up the Leafs and say, fine, we'll pay that price you were asking for a month and a half ago?
Dude, you'll flip him now, and he's making $875,000, and he could pot 25 for you on a team that's always capped out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I think that's crazy. I think that's a crazy thought to have right now.
It's tough to justify that. You're right. I mean, it's tough to justify that as smart asset management to do that. But again, Craig Berube is going to have a say in terms of how much he's going to play. But if he's in the lineup and he's playing, then it's on Robertson to make sure that he stays in the good books. And at a minimum, he's done that through camp. But he's not alone. I'm sure Berube's already got guys that he likes, guys that maybe he doesn't like so much. And the Leafs are back in action against Detroit tomorrow night. And I'm sure they loved what Stollart's brought to the table last night.
How could you not?
He looked great. He looked great in nets. And Joseph Wall will play 60 minutes tomorrow, and that's your tandem. It's Wall and Stollarts, and they're both big guys, and that's going to be a storyline that will show up, I think, pretty quickly into the season in terms of what you're getting in net, because it always does. The most integral position. Wall's young, Stollarts is new, but you get goaltending.
He's huge, though.
Changes a lot.
This Stoley, the goalie's huge. He's played well. You like that, Stoley, the goalie? Oh,
I think you're onto something there, Stoley, the goalie. He did two things that I really liked last night. He's big in the net, and he didn't leave the net because he pulled something. He's in the right books. He's
Good
going
start.
in the right direction for me.
Big guy and you're healthy. That's always a good sign.
Yes.
Big guy and you're healthy.
Yes.
All right, Mike Johnson coming up. And, again, John Gibbons at around 5:40. The Mets are on their way to Philly. What an NLDS. You got Mets, Phillies. You got Dodgers, Padres. You cannot beat that. So Gibby's coming up later this afternoon. Dear Hazy B is back in a couple of hours. And the GM of the Leafs, Brad Treliving, will join us later this hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brad Treliving coming up here in just a moment. The Leafs wrap up their preseason tomorrow night at home against Detroit. Saturday night, downtown. I mean, it's supposed to be beautiful weather. So, and also Messi's in town, right? But he's probably not going to play.
Oh, yeah, just like Vancouver.
Yeah, at least he flew up here. He is here, which is maybe more of a troll job. But the guy will probably be training and, he'll be spotted in Yorkville tonight.
Oh, he might have an autograph signing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, he'll make some money
deals.
while he's up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone will be paying him a fortune to do something, and then he just won't play. But, again, I think the defense rests on, like, we had that Brady Messi. Messi's going to change the world over here debates. He hasn't done anything in terms – like, look at this city right now. And I know Toronto FC hasn't been great, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. And the understanding is he's not going to play. But the guy's in town, and people are talking about Nick Robertson. Ourselves included. Like, no one's buzzing about Messi being here. It's like,
what is the reasoning for him not playing?
They've completed their first overall. They've won the Shield. It's, they don't love the pitch up here. It's not in great shape. The Argos, chew it up a little bit. It's late in the season, and he probably just load management. He's banged up from time to time, and yeah, you got some load management. I don't think Messi will be playing. That's what they're reporting out of Miami. But again, people have been paying a fortune for these tickets, and then he's not showing up. He's not playing. And that was a huge conundrum out in Vancouver because he didn't even fly out there. He said, screw it, I'm staying in Miami. I'm not even going to make the trip.
Dude, and they were pissed.
They were really sour, and they deserve to be. It's a tough spot to be in because of who he is. But if you're Miami, you don't really care about that. And if you're Messi, evidently you don't either. But again, the Leafs back in action tomorrow, wrapping up their preseason. A lot of transactions taking place today. We're getting close to basically the roster. Who's going to be playing and what it's going to look like as of opening night next Wednesday in Montreal. And to chat more about that, here's the GM of the Leafs. Here's Brad Treliving. How you doing, Brad?
Gentlemen, how are you?
We're doing well. We were talking a lot about that game last night, and obviously a lot about your team day in, day out. And this Nick Robertson story has been very compelling for us, considering, the off-season storylines, a late signing. He shows up at camp, and he's played great. I'm curious where he stands within the organization today in terms of a pecking order, in terms of a depth chart, compared to where he was day one of camp.
Well, he shot the puck in the net 5 times, so even I can figure that one out. That's probably pretty good. You probably need to find a spot there. You know what, Brian? I think a lot got made of the stuff over the summer. I think some of it got a little bit. Not that it gets amplified more in this market, but I spoke to Nick, consistently over the summer, and a couple things. I think, I had 1 year history with him here, and I think, just learning a little bit about, his time here. I think the big thing that he's fought here and the challenges is injuries, right? He's had some injuries. So he was just trying to make sure he's going to get an opportunity here, and it goes both ways. Certainly we want to give him an opportunity. He's got to pull his end of the bargain like any player, and I think like a lot of, and Jeff can speak to this too. Like a lot of the young players, especially offensive players, when they come into the league, they've got a gift and they put a lot of the pressure to score, and he's got the ability to shoot it in the net, which is the hardest thing to do. I think one of the things we talked a lot over the summer is that's great, and we need that, but you got to find a way to build trust with a coach on making sure that they trust you in the other parts of the ice. And to me, as much as it's great the puck's going in the net, like to me, his camp can kind of be highlighted by the 2 plays he made before both goals last night. And that's great defensive plays, right? And, Chiefs got him killing penalties, and he's showing like he's getting in on the forecheck. So he's rounding out the other parts of his game that you need to do. Every player needs to do. But he's doing that, and he's, like I said, and he's shooting in the net. So he's had a great camp, very proud of him, and he's like, to me, he's muscled his way right into in a position here right now. So we'll get through tomorrow and we'll see where everything ends up for Wednesday.
Isn't one of the other challenges, Tree, just when the big boys are playing, all the power play opportunities, secondary power play opportunities on the Leafs, those big boys stay out there big time. So the other areas of the ice are big, but he's going to have limited offensive opportunities. He's got to find a way to contribute.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. And one way you can do it is you make an impression on the coach, but exactly that. It is now, Craig and I have talked a little bit about trying to, spread it around a little bit more, but the other part too is we can't just look. The big boys have got to drive the bus, but we've seen it. We saw it again last year in the playoffs. And I haven't been here, in previous years, but I've read the book here. I kind of have an idea of what's happened, and we can't just rely on 1, 2, or 3 guys to score, right? You've got to find that secondary offense, and whatever those minutes are that you're going to get, you got to find a way to be productive. And the best way those minutes are increased is making sure that you're doing things away from the puck that establishes trust. He hasn't killed penalties in the NHL right now, and that's one of the things we talked about. I talked about with Craig over the course of the summer and he brought it up. Why can't he? He's quick. He's got good instincts. A lot of times it comes down to sense and work ethic on a penalty kill. So all those different, like I said, it's with a lot of players. When you have a new set of eyes on you, a new staff, everybody, it's a clean slate for everybody. And Nicky's taken advantage of it. Good on him and good for us.
With that being said, Brad, how hard is it for players when maybe a GM or a coach has a notion about a player? How hard is it to change their mind in a training camp and preseason? Is there enough time? Is there enough games for you to go from start to finish and say, I've completely done a 180 on this one guy? Yeah, I wouldn't. Frankly, I wouldn't relate that to Nick, because I think he's a guy I've thought well of. It's sort of rounding out his game. But in general, I think that can be a challenge, right? The manager view, and not just to protect the the GM union here, but you usually have a broader view, right? You're sometimes looking bigger picture. Coaches, they're worried about tonight. How do we win the game? And sometimes sometimes it's hard to get out of the doghouse when you get in there, right? Some guys have longer leashes than others. And I get it. I get it. When you're living, when it's raw and you're living right in the fire as a coach, and it's, tonight at 7:00, and how do I win the game? And player X, I put him in this position before and it didn't go so well. And I did it again and it didn't go so well. It's sometimes hard to get out of that doghouse. And you always, I think we all of us have to always, especially when you're dealing with young players, they're evolving, they're changing. I always talk, we never give up on a guy until it's time that we have to move on. And for a coach, you never stop coaching a player. You got to keep coaching them. And, but no question, you'd be lying if you said that there wasn't times where you've had sort of a, it's sometimes difficult to change the perception of a player, but that's where, to me, it's all about communication. And you got to, if something's not going right, rather than sitting upstairs and bitching about it and hoping that it changes, you talk to people and say, here's, at the end of the day, here's the things that you need to do to either stay with the team or get a bigger role or whatever it is that everybody's trying to accomplish. You don't, you're not going to wish it to fruition. You got to talk about it. So to me, communication is a big thing, but sometimes I've seen guys go in the doghouse and it's a hard time to get out of it.
See that, Brian? When me and Noodles have bad shows, you can just pick up the phone and call us. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, Tree.
Communication, Brian.
Communication. That's on me. I'll learn.
Tree, if it were up to you, how many exhibition games would you guys play? League, just how many do you think is the proper amount?
Yeah, this is probably the topic du jour now, with what's happening in the week.
Be honest.
So here's what I say about it. Like, honestly, and training camp's made up of sort of, three groups, in my opinion. There's the pros, the guys they're trying to get some reps in, to get their game, just to knock off the rust. How many games does that take? A couple, three. I've had guys that, like Shane Doan play. We were together, and he's like a big buffalo around the ice, so he needed a few games to get the engine cranked up. I've had guys that want to play, 3 or 4. Some guys, wanted to play 1. So you got that group. Then you've kind of got that group that's, they're kind of pros, but they're looking to really solidify. They're living day to day, and they're trying to stay in the league. And then you've got the young kids that every day is game 7. So I don't know. I think there's an economic piece to the equation.
Yes,
I think probably when you look at it, from a manager's perspective, I think the NHL guys 2 to 3 games at max is what they need. You want to give some young guys a couple 3 games to play. So again, it's hard to 4 games, you probably can get all that stuff accomplished.
With Brad Treliving, the GM of the Maple Leafs. So we got to get into this William Nylander situation. Is he a winger? Is he a center? Like, take us through the reasoning behind this. Two camps in a row here where Sheldon tried him, didn't last long. Now Berube tried him. It feels like it didn't last long. He's back on the wing. Is this the end of it? What do we make of this?
Well, we got to get you a hobby, because I think we're spending too much time on this stuff. Like,
we love it. It's a great topic for us. I'd love to see Willie up the middle of the ice, but it doesn't feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with it. The idea, when I came last year, I talked to Sheldon a lot about it, because the idea is really tantalizing, right? When you see Willie skating and handling the puck in the middle of the ice, and so individually what it does with his skill set, secondarily how your team sets up, I believe you build it through the middle of the ice, so that's fine, whether it be your center ice, your top 4D, into the net. Like it becomes, that's really intriguing how it sets up your center ice. So the idea, I think, is a really good idea. Then from practice, what you're doing is you're taking a guy. Willie's been a pretty damn good winger, right? What did he have? 40 goals the last 2 years. He's dynamic. Sometimes he creates his offense coming. He can sniff stuff out. And the way that the positions themselves are just so much different, right? So that's what I know people get caught up with. Why is it doesn't work? Or you do a lot more stopping in center at playing center. You're coming in. It's a heavier workload defensively. So this isn't about abandoning it. I think you're going to see a hybrid. I think he spent the first week or so, 8 days of camp at center ice. Craig wanted to get him some reps on the wing. So I think you're going to see him. I think there's going to be some flex there. If you look at Craig's team in St. Louis, and when they were going through the good runs they had, there's a lot. Braden Chen would play on the wing. He'd play down the middle of the ice. O'Reilly sometimes would be on the wing, middle of the ice. He moved guys around. So I think the ability that you can go back to it. But it's that balance of saying it looks great and it feels great, and if it all came together, it would be great. To are we taking a guy who's been, he's been a pretty damn good player. I've had 1 year working with him, and there was a time to be. He's as good as anybody there for a stretch last year. And are we? Let's just be careful. We're not cutting off our nose to spite our face. So I think you'll see. It's a long way of saying I think you're going to see a little bit of both.
Brad, obviously the biggest point of emphasis for you guys in free agency was kind of rebuilding the blue line. You bring in Chris Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I know Jake McCabe is day-to-day right now, but, from what you've seen out of some of these other guys in the preseason, whether it's, Refi or Kokkonen, do you feel like you have more depth than you maybe thought on the blue line this year?
No, I think we've got that was part of the plan. Now we'll see how it all shapes out. We haven't, it's all been preseason pace and all that stuff so far. But I think Frankie, we got 8 new defensemen. Maybe it's 8 or 9 from a year ago organizationally, and you need that. Like you want to build your 7, you want to build your 6 and your 7 as good as you can. But I mean, we saw it last year. I think we used 14 defensemen.
I could have used that when I played on the team, Brad.
Well,
I think
right.
they only got to 7 when I was.
They only got to 7. Well, I mean, they were waiting. You're in that 8-hole ready to go.
Just right there on the precipice of getting in there, Frank.
That's the only problem. There's not enough injuries, Frank. He's just hang in there. But I've been impressed with the depth. It has, and you mentioned, Kokkonen, Niemela got into a game last night. We've kind of wanted to see where he's at. Myers, Marshall Rafai's had a good camp. We traded for a kid, Cade Weber, a big kid at a BU who we think's got real good upside here. We're going to have to work with them. Brought Mattinen back in here. So there's some, we wanted to add some size and length. And a little bit of bite back there, but we also wanted to add numbers. So, when you look at Tanev and Oliver and Hakanpää, who's, he's just working his way back to health of the NHL, and then, whether it be Rafai, Myers, Mattinen, Weber, Kokkonen, like there's a lot of defensemen there. So they're all going to develop at different times and there's couple different shapes and sizes and different skill sets. So there's lefties or righties. So that's an area that when I came in here, we had to improve the defense. We're not perfect there. I think we're better, but we got to keep building it.
With Brad Treliving, and up front, you guys still have a lot of bodies. A couple on PTOs, and Max Pacioretty, Steven Lorentz, Easton Cowan still up with the team. Connor Dewar, I believe, is back on the ice. Like. Again, you get the calculators out here. That's a lot of forwards. How difficult will it be, and how challenging do you expect the next 48 hours to be, so to speak, to cut this down? And I guess starting with the PTOs, and then if you can get to Cowan, how do you intend on approaching those topics?
Yeah, well, we've got to get through the number. I think number 1, Brian, is going to be health, right? So touch wood, we get through tomorrow and see where we are health-wise. Connor Dewar, right now he had shoulder surgery, and the surgeon's not going to it's a 6-month deal, so he's going to have a few more weeks at least yet. Like he got into a couple practices now, but he's sort of been in those, don't touch me jerseys yet, and just kind of but he's coming. But so health will be number 1, and see where everybody's at. And then, we make some decisions. Easton, I made the comment today, he's a better player today than he was a year ago. He may not have had the flashiest of camps. I think he's got, he's put a lot of pressure on him, but he's 19. Like, he's 19. This guy's going to be a really good Leaf for a long time. Now, whether that's now or a year from now, we'll see. But, it's a tough league. It's a really hard league at 18 and 19. So we're going to make a decision on him what's best for Easton Cowan and for the long play, and not just for now. And we'll see. But these things have a way of sorting themselves out. We'll get through tomorrow. We'll see what the health is, and then we'll make the best decisions we can to put the best team together that we think we can. So the good news is I've been where you don't have enough bodies to fill the seats. I think we've got more players and seats available. So we'll see. But I've been happy with the camp. Now that means screw all until we actually get up and start playing for real. But I think we've got some depth there, and I've been really impressed with our big guys. It starts with 34. He's been driving the bus from a competitive standpoint, from a work standpoint, all camp long. So, we'll get through tomorrow and kind of see how this all sorts itself out.
Mitch Marner's, always a topic of discussion clearly in the city, and it's been loud around him throughout the offseason into camp. We talked to you about him about a month ago or so. Now that we're through camp and he's healthy, he's looked good. How do you think he's handled camp, and where do things stand with Mitch in terms of what you expect out of him this season?
Well, I think he's a star, and so I expect him to have a big year. I think he's had a great summer. I think it's evident he's put the work in, and there's a lot of listen. To whom much is given, much is expected. So our big guys, there's a lot expected of them, and when their team falls short, there'll be lots of noise. And but this guy's he's a star. He's a special player. He's looked really good in camp. He's ready. There's been a focus. I think Craig's done a real good job in putting together a camp that's it's been hard. It's physically been grueling, but it's also I think it's not just being hard for the sake of being hard. There's been a method to the madness here. I think he's really emphasized the checking game. And listen, you guys have watched. Everybody's watched the team. This is no state secret here. The team has been successful for a long time in the regular season. It's been a successful offensive team. We're going to focus on every day. We're not looking ahead. Use whatever cliche you want to use, but to win in this league, you got to check, and you got to be able to play when it's hard, and that's been a focus from day one of camp. And like I said, our leaders, Mitch included, and Mitch and Austin, they've led the way with the work ethic, with the buy-in. And like I said, we haven't played any games yet, so there'll be turbulence as there is in every year. But I've been really impressed with how Mitch has gone about his business, and like I said, we're lucky to have him. He's a special talent, and I think he's going to have a hell of a year.
Well, you got to get through one more tomorrow night, and then beyond that, it's go time as of Wednesday at the Bell Center. So good luck getting through the weekend, all the decisions that are still to be made, and we'll do this again down the road. Thank you, Brad.
Sounds good, fellas. Have a good day.
Brad Treliving of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like he said, there's probably more players than there are positions. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be some calls that may be tough, in terms of what they do with who makes the team, who plays. You got 4 lines and 3 deep pairings, 2 goalies on Wednesday night. Only so many guys can go in the lineup.
That's why I should be an executive. I talked about Robertson. Other areas of the ice need to contribute. We had a general manager come on and say there's other areas of the ice. Before you guys wanted to anoint him a 25-goal scorer.
I never anointed anything.
You guys were giving it to me at the beginning of the show.
Never anointed anything.
I wouldn't say we were giving it to you. It was a little back and forth.
I was just following up on what you said. I agree with your assessment. What I'm saying is that I think he's a player that needs to be given an opportunity to move up if he can, right? Like, it's on him to do that, but I don't think you pencil him in. Like, Bobby McMahon is probably a good comparison. He feels more like a third-line identity, use your body, be physical type guy that doesn't scream first-line talent, maybe second-line talent. Maybe he gets that opportunity. Maybe he plays himself into that. But Robertson has that type of skill set that, he's fast. He's clearly got a knack for scoring goals. Generally, that speaks to someone higher up the lineup. But there's only so many spots, and he's got to fight for it. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. We've got John Gibbons in about an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. John Gibbons coming up. What a night last night in Milwaukee. They are going to feel that pain for a long time, man. They had that. They had it. up 2-0 in the ninth, and Pete Alonso goes opposite field. He knew it the second it left his bat. Place was going nuts in terms of the Mets and the clubhouse and the dugout. It was amazing. And I saw a stat last night that I found almost impossible to believe, considering the history of baseball, that home run by Alonso last night made him the first player in MLB history to hit a go-ahead home run while trailing in the ninth inning or later of a winner-take-all postseason game. Like, no one's ever done that. No one's ever been down in the ninth and hit a winning home run. I mean,
it was an incredible ending to a ball game with not much going on during it. I think San Diego can cause problems for Los Angeles just because they always do. Other than that, I'm calling destruction in the other series. Philly, Yankees. Who else?
You got Cleveland or Detroit?
Cleveland, I think everybody just absolutely smashes. I'm sorry.
So you got Phillies, Yankees, Cleveland. I think the Dodgers are going to beat the Padres. Yeah, I mean, that's
it's like the Cinderella's going to end, I think, abruptly.
One of them will get through. One of them
stadium in San Diego seems to be going bonkers, too. Like, those are some pretty cool
They are going crazy. And I'm going to wipe – if you want to wipe out San Diego, I say none of them are getting through for 500.
I think Detroit can beat Cleveland. Like, I think the Tigers can beat Cleveland.
Cleveland's they're real deal Holyfield.
They're not. I understand that, but Detroit is like the hottest team in baseball right now. They feel, you talk about destiny, man. They got that.
So you'll take my bet. We're wiping out the Dodgers.
I'll take it. Fine. Dodgers, Padres out. The other three, one of the dogs will win. Yes.
Shoot. Anything you name the price. Anything.
All right. Anything I've won in the past couple of days, I'll just double it down. All right? Because I got a lot on you. A lot on you. Mike Johnson, John Gibbons coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.